This is Stephanie from Spindles in the Making, and I'm also known as Katori Freya on YouTube. And I saw some comments below about how to wind a mini cop and a main cop, and so I'm going to be doing that with my Russian support spindle right here. As you can see, I'm already building the main cop onto the spindle, and I have this area right here is where I'm going to be building a mini cop. And the reason why you might want to build a mini cop is because sometimes it's more tedious to constantly wind onto your main cop again and again as soon as you spin a arm's length of yarn. So sometimes it's easier just to put it onto the mini cop first, and then once you feel like you have a decent sized mini cop that might impede your spinning, then you would wind it off onto your main cop and continue spinning. So we'll start with the mini cop first, and I'll spin up some yarn. This is silk fiber. I've really kind of drawn out this fiber because it's very long, and so it's a little harder to spin on the support spindle. It can be done, but you just really have to draft out your fiber. And you can also maybe cut your fiber too if you think it's too long, and just make it shorter and easier to use. So I'll be using that to build a mini cop. So now that I've added enough twist to my fiber, I can then bring it down and slowly do an up and down motion while turning my spindle and start to build that mini cop right there. And I usually build it a little further down on the shaft, like an inch or so that way you still have control of spinning your tip up here and it doesn't impede up in this area, because you want to hold and be able to use your flicking power up on this top shaft. So now that you've done that, you just allow your fiber to come back up, and then you continue to add spin and spin out your fiber. And I work it up and down in a motion. And if you're using a Fong spindle, eventually I'll kind of talk about how you wind it onto this lower cop here. But you can continue to do it in this fashion on top on most support spindles. So Tibetan, Fong, Russian, dewdrop, cup, bead, you can all use this method on these spindles. I'm going to take my next piece of fiber, kind of just lay it on, draft out a little bit, add a little bit of twist, and then continue this process. Alright, so I've spun up a decent mini cop, and of course you can go as big as you want to or whatever you're comfortable with, but that seems like a good enough amount for me right now to wind onto my main cop here down at the bottom. So I will now do a close-up of winding that cop on. Alright, so here's a bit of a close-up of my cops. So here's my main cop down here, and then here's my mini cop up here. So in order to wind this material off, I kind of do an L shape with my fingers, and I kind of do a butterfly effect where I'm winding and doing a figure 8 and working between my 2 fingers like this. And I just start to wind off my material. And as you can see, even though my cop is small, it's still quite a bit of thread that I've spun in a relatively short time. All right, so I'm back down to my main cop. So with my Russian, I can kind of layer it on a little thick, and what I mean by that is you can start adding your layers closer together, so you can kind of do more rotations as you layer this on, and you work from bottom to top or top to bottom, and you just want to keep on working it back and forth on that cop and build it. And you don't want to go too tight because that could squeeze your fibers. But you want to make sure you have it taut enough so that it's not slippery or falling off of your spindle. Now with fongs, sometimes you have, with the antique versions, that thicker piece of your shaft is in the middle, and you're going to have to do more extreme layers. So that means you're going to be working it down faster, working it back up faster, and a little bit tighter to try and make sure to hold on to that centerpiece of the wood. But with Russian spindles, there's a nice smooth decrease of shaft width that you can work with, so you can definitely layer it a little closer together and just slowly work your way up and down that cop that you have building. And you just keep on doing this until you have about maybe this much fiber left, and then you just slowly work your way back up. Make sure you have enough twists up here so that it stays on your spindle and doesn't kind of slip up off of your spindle. And then you just wind it all the way back up to the top, and then you can start drafting, flicking, and building that mini cop again. So here's a little lower demonstration of just winding a mini cop, just working it up and down onto your spindle. And that's where you might want to build your mini cop, and you're just working it kind of like you would with your larger cop. You're working it back and forth on this shaft. Not as extreme as down here, but enough to where it kind of creates layers that help it stay where it is, like kind of locks it in. So that's why you kind of want to move back and forth up and down your cop, is to kind of just lock that fiber in, because if you wind it all up in one spot, that can cause, if it loses its grip, it can cause it to shift up and come off of your spindle, and you don't want that to happen. So you always want to move it back and forth and not put too much fiber all in one area at one time. So that was the basic demonstration of my video. I hope this helps people with their support spindling. I haven't had this support spindle out in a couple of years, so I apologize if it seemed a little rough and out of practice, because I am. But hopefully this will help people with their cop and mini cop winding skills. Have a good day.